between. Located in the Southern Development Office Building at 1006 Surrey Street, Lafayette. Telephone 3377808149. That's Finders Keepers Home Improvement.
The Open Line Radio Show. You can call us at 337-534-0036. That's 337-534-0036. For talk and information on Louisiana Superstation, KIEE 88.3 FM.
"2024 is a new year. Well, at KIEE 88.3 FM, your community source, the Open Line Radio Show is coming with more information, more interviews, and more knowledge for our communities of South Louisiana and beyond. The Open Line Radio Show personalities really appreciates the callers and fans, and we hope to bring more diverse subject matters while keeping the community informed. So all in all, keep it tuned to your #1 community talk show, the Open Line Radio Show, heard exclusively on KIEE 88.3 FM, your superstation.
Is on trial for killing a young man with sandwiches. Put up the picture full mass. He was holding sandwiches. In Columbus, Ohio, Jason Meade, on the right, a former deputy for the Franklin County Sheriff's Office, is now on trial for murder and reckless homicide for fatally shooting a 23-year-old named Casey Goodson Jr. on the left. This happened in 2020. The young man had gone to the dentist that day and got 3 Subway sandwiches before he was killed in front of his 72-year-old grandmother and 2 toddlers. The story is quite horrific. Goodson parked in front of the house, walked across the front yard, and was entering the home through the side entrance when he was shot, according to Sean Walton, a lawyer representing the family. When Goodson's grandmother heard the shots and screams of the toddlers, she rushed to the kitchen where the deputy pointed his gun at family members and ordered them out of their own home. That's according to the attorney. The family saw the sandwiches next to Goodson's body, but not the gun, the lawyer said. According to a statement posted by the Columbus Police, here it is. The incident involves a Franklin County Sheriff's deputy who was working as a member of a U.S. Marshals task force looking for violent offenders Friday, December 4th, 2020. During an operation in the Northland area of Columbus, the deputy reported witnessing a man with a gun. The deputy was investigating the situation, and there are reports of a verbal exchange. The deputy fired at Mr. Casey Goodson, resulting in his death. A gun was recovered from Mr. Goodson. Mr. Goodson was not the person being sought by the U.S. Marshals Task Force. Now, here are the events according to the former officer. Meade's defense maintained Wednesday that Goodson waved and pointed a gun, a firearm, at Deputy Meade from his vehicle as Meade drove by, and that Meade pursued Goodson to his grandmother's home. Meade previously said that Goodson turned to lift his gun before entering the home and aimed it at the deputy, prompting Meade to fire. Meade was not wearing a body camera at the time, so there is no video evidence of the shooting. Now, you know Meade lying. Okay, the whole story is insane. In my opinion, obviously, he's lying his ass off. So the cop wants us to believe that a young man who just purchased Subway sandwiches saw a cop and unprovoked said, "Here you go," pulls out a gun on the cop. waves it around, and continues with his Subway sandwiches. Cop pursues him inside of his grandmother's home. And then that's when he decided to lift up his gun, the young man, and Meade had to kill him. You see, here's the problem. Your department, sir, already said that wasn't the person that was the target of your pursuit or the pursuit of the task force. There's more. The prosecution clarifies the circumstance of the gun. In his opening statement Wednesday in the murder case of Jason Meade, Special Prosecutor Gary Schroyer shared publicly for the first time that 23-year-old Casey Goodson Jr.'s handgun was discovered. Goodson, who fell when he was shot 6 times with 5 shots hitting him in the back, also had a gun holster with no strap around his waist, Schroyer said. However, Schroyer emphasized numerous times on Wednesday that Goodson was holding a bag of sandwiches in one hand and his keys in the other hand at the time he was shot. There was no possible way forensically he could have had a third hand. It's the argument of the prosecutor. And bearing arms is bearing arms. You are able to have a gun. All right, there's more. He also said his AirPods was in his ears. Schroyer said neither he nor Goodson's family have ever disputed that Goodson could have been carrying a gun, but noted that he also had a license to carry a firearm. All right. Now, understand the situation, right? White, male American with a gun, constitutional rights. Young black male with a gun, police come out with a statement. Yeah, listen, he wasn't the guy we were actually looking for, but he's dead and he does have a gun. See the difference? See the narrative difference? The same rights that the white male alleged patriot has, the 23-year-old had those same rights and he had the license. He can carry. That wasn't mentioned in the police narrative. They wanted to make it seem as if he did, in fact, try to kill a police officer. Forensically, the prosecution is saying it's impossible. There's no way the narrative of the cop can even possibly be true. There's more. After Meade was charged, Meade's attorney sought to have the case tried in federal court. Now, I've seen them do this multiple times on these task force. They tried to do it in Atlanta. So they wanted to move it to the federal court as a step toward having the state charges dismissed. And because it was far less likely Meade would be charged with killing Goodson under federal law. Franklin County prosecutors fought the move in order to keep the charges alive in state court. A federal judge ruled in February 2022 that Meade was not acting in his role as a deputized U.S. Marshal at the time of the shooting and said the murder case must remain in state court. Now, here's the irony of this. If he would have been working with his task force, this case goes to federal court. I've seen it happen time and time again. Federal court provides some protections for cops that are not provided in state prosecutions. For example, most states have some level of duty to report, and also many states or many jurisdictions, they have this mandate to have on your body camera, which also means if you violate that, it can be brought against you in a court of law, all right? It can be introduced as evidence of a guilty conscience, so to speak, but under federal law, that requirement is not there, which means it is inadmissible in federal court. That small variance can tank a case, all right? So Meade did not have authority to arrest Mr. Goodson as a task force member and was not acting as a federal officer at the time. Federal Judge Edmund Sargas Jr. found Meade was a full-time Franklin County Sheriff's Department deputy on a regular assignment with a U.S. Marshal Service fugitive task force immediately before the shooting. Look at that. It just seems he was determined to shoot somebody that day. Man carrying sandwiches, exercising his constitutional right to bear arms. He's shot dead in his grandmother's home. with grandmother and the toddlers crying. Why? Jackson, we're going to follow this case, obviously. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, from everything that was laid out, it seems as though a case against Meade is very strong. I mean, there's really nothing to defend about what he did. He didn't have the right. He wasn't on duty. And, you know, the person that was murdered didn't even have a weapon, but he could have if he wanted to. And I
Right.
think one of the most important things that you pointed out is that the narrative switch. You know, I mean, such that people like, for instance, like the Rittenhouse narrative, he was just defending himself. I mean, you don't even have to say anything about the verdict, but that's the whole narrative around the case. He was defending himself, or anything similar to that is I have the right to have this. And what did Rittenhouse have? And I'm not like comparing both of them, but just like the caliber of weapon, giant machine gun, a giant assault rifle versus, oh, I thought he had a handgun in his pocket. You know, so it's the narrative switch.
Yes, good evening. Good evening. Welcome to another edition of the Open Line Radio Show, which we are not in studio right now. And I just want to give you a piece on Brother Rashad Ritchie. We'll be right back.
Everything, a dangerous black man with a weapon. Oh, what if he has a right to carry it? You know, so it's. I think that the case against Meade is very strong, and I certainly hope that he loses.
Yeah,
So,
and I'm very thankful for this prosecutor for pressing the issue, not trying to hide behind any veil, and also charging the cop with what the cop should be charged with, and willing to sue the federal government if they try to take this case away from local jurisdiction. That's the way you provide examples of leadership. All right.
Yes, we're back. We're back at the Open Line Radio Show. We're not in the physical studios of KIEE 88.3 today, but when we're not in the studio, we still do not want to waste this valuable time to bring you some great information on the television side of it. So hopefully we'll be back in the physical studios of 88.3 FM soon. I want to also keep in prayer Sister Khadijah. She's been going through some situations, and that's why I know you have asked for her. She's under a different situation concerning some medical issues, but she got bounced back. She recently lost her mother. Again, my condolences to her, Sister Khadijah, Mr. Kevin. He have a show on Thursday, so and they lost their mother. Really appreciate all the inquiries and concern about Sister Khadijah. And again, we'll be back in the studio soon, but I still do not want to waste this valuable time slot here on AOC Community Media to present some different information that the alternative media do not talk about. Corporate media ownership, which is, we're talking Black History. Black History is 88.3 FM and all the wholly owned Black stations. Now, other stations are pretenders. They don't own, they might have Black content, but mostly it's in a capitalist corporate situation where they are actually charging Black folks for services, and they're making a lot of money. At the same time, those same stations had sister stations which spew all that hate on some of that music that's out there on these stations that use the N-word. And so I always want people to understand and to support wholly Black-owned media first before you do anything else. Wholly owned Black-owned media. That was our brother Rashad Ritchie, and I like to feature him, a rising star among talk show hosts. Been knowing him for a good while. He was on the air at WAOK. He's still on the air at WAOK. He always have some interesting take on some different thing that's going on. he right now is one of the main broadcasters on the Young Turk Network, TYT. Everybody remember that. I've been supporting them since back in the day. Black History Month, 365 to me, should be celebrated 365 days a week. I mean a year. I'm sorry. Okay, but look, I don't know if you or heard me say about interesting online publication called the Louisiana Illuminator, independent media operation. They cover some big stories and a lot of other newspapers from around the country. They're in a co-op and they take from different stories from around the country. And but Louisiana has its own independent news outlet as far as when you want to get the independent media. We got black-owned media, we got independent media, and we got corporate controlled and state-sponsored media. Because if you are getting your information just from the state of Louisiana or any local government entity, you're part of the state operation. So I want to say this, in the Ronald Green case, it continues to drag on. In the headlines that the charges against Trooper Corey York, you can read about it. It continues. But also, this is what we call Black History Month in Southern Louisiana, also coupled with Mardi Gras. We take Mardi Gras so doggone serious, we turn out in numbers. But yet, when we have issues like the Ronald Green case in Baton Rouge, we attended a rally twice in 2 years. We attended a rally for the Ronald Green case, and we turn out in numbers to go get entertainment by some people who really don't care about us. It's evident in a lot of the Mardi Gras parades from around the country that people, around the state, that people were upset with the way they were being treated. We know a young lady in, I think, one of the parades, I don't know if it's the Karen Corps parade or what, she had a bag of urine thrown on her. In other words, they threw a bag of piss on her, So we, it's crazy that we keep going, seek our own demise at the hands of people who do not care about us. But then again, we will go roll into Black History Month. I want to bring this up right here. Some of my people who I celebrate locally and nationally, Sister Ava Muhammad, one of the leaders in the Nation of Islam under the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. She passed on a couple of years ago. We want to salute her. Then we got Father Albert A.J. McKnight, who was instrumental in starting Southern Development and incubating other businesses throughout South Louisiana and around the country. We founder of Southern Development, 88.3 FM, which Southern Development owns. And we also want to celebrate our brother, the Honorable Takuna El Shabazz, who always trying to give us the great knowledge about what's going on in the cultural warfare. And he predicted all was coming now. You got cultural warfare on many fronts here in South Louisiana. You have people who want you to believe you're not Black. They want you to believe you are something called a Creole, which is nothing more than traditional, what we call, if you of African descent and you come and you start speaking a certain language at another place, that don't make you less of African. That there's no such race as a Creole. There's more of what we call mixed people, people who come from both sides of the spectrum, Caucasian, Black, or any other ethnic group. But they want you to believe that Creole is a race. So that's, to me, that's to further distance yourself from being called Black. So pay attention to that. And Brother Takuna always gave us the accurate info and the research on that. And also, we want to celebrate Sister Janelle Shagwa, instrumental in the media, the local Black media, one of person who inspired me on her radio station, KJCB 770 AM, which she managed for so many years. And then the creation of the open line, and then moving the open line to 88.3 here in Lafayette. So she was always at the forefront. Whether or not we agree with a lot of things Sister Janelle did or didn't do, you got to say she knew how to get people together from different backgrounds and different ideology. And certainly my ideology didn't mix with a lot of the people that she rubbed elbows with, but I certainly appreciate her at least giving me a look, and that for always I'll be indebted. Also, I don't have Sister Khadija picture up. I want to pull up the picture with her marching in Gina in one of the inside cover stories in Jet magazine. Historical Black figures like Sister Khadija are not actually acknowledged the way they should be. So we should always try to do the research and try to find out yourself before we say anything. I want to pull up some other pictures that down through the years, like we say, Sister Janelle was instrumental in starting the African American History Parade, and it had different names: Black History Parade, so forth, African Heritage Parade, and so forth. So, but at the same time, we call it the Black History Parade here in Lafayette. Very instrumental, Sister Janelle Shagwa. We also want to shout out to Brother Wallace Senegal, who was there with her from day one. And nobody acknowledged that. But I have to say, not because I produced one of his shows or direct one of his shows, but they got to acknowledge the people who was there with Sister Janelle at the beginning, who was doing the real hard work of the runners, the people who were getting things together, the floats. And when it started out as a few people and a few cars and a few floats, Brother Wallace was there. Also, Brother Henry Davis, who was her on-air personality at KJCB. Brother Henry Davis was one also. We got to acknowledge these people. I've taken a lot of pictures over the years, zillions and zillions of pictures. And one day I will try to put it in a portfolio where everybody could view it online and so forth. Zillions of pictures of historical moments here in South Louisiana, and apparently I never get a call from people to say, well, Brother Zay, you got that old picture, but that's okay. That's one man trash, another man treasure. And I have pictures galore of different, what we call celebrity types and so forth over the years. So let me show you this picture right here. This picture is of one of the first galas that Sister Janelle had. I was privy to record it. I have a lot of the, matter of fact, I have a lot of video footage over the years of some of the things. This pic with Miss Denise Booty. Everybody know her. Hails originally from South Louisiana, Lafayette, New Iberia area. She is what we call a movie star in her own right, a person who has always been at the forefront in a lot of the new independent Black sitcoms and so forth. And she was one of the first guests of Sister Janelle at the gala. That same, I don't have that picture. I'm gonna try to find it. The picture of Sister Janelle with famed attorney. They just did a movie about him, Willie Garrett, one of the richest, the first Black billionaire, Willie Garrett. We have a picture of that, and I don't have it right now. And let me show you this picture right here. Everybody remember we used to do the holiday gift of music. I used to record that and take it back to AOC the following week of the holiday season and show it on television in its entirety, when many local celebrities and artists would come in. Well, we have a local artist and celebrity at the same time. Now she's nationally known, Corin Hawthorne, who Sister Janelle believed in so much and covered. She gave me the opportunity to cover her so many years. Corin Hawthorne is a national star now. So Sister Janelle had a hand in a lot of that. Let me go to this slide right here. This picture right here is from one of the holiday celebration I videotaped with local artists, Miss Leah Simon, Miss Audrey Smothers, and Miss Nebanese, Giorgio, and this other brother, I can't recall his name, but he plays in, I seen him played and I recovered him in the Grave Garden Band. So Sister Janelle always had the local celebrities and gave them a spotlight and a home to come on the holiday season and give back to the community. Okay, let me bring up this one right here. Grammy Award winner Chubby Carrier and my good sister, spiritual sister, Sister Bernadette Stephen. That's a pic from one of the performances they had. I don't know if it's Jazz on the Green or one of the holiday things that we had some years ago. Again, if you want to reach me, you have a code 337-983-6080, Open Line Radio Show. Okay, let's see. Let's move on to got so many pics. Okay. This was the Southern Switchers Car Show, the second annual, and I think that's the one Brother Antonio had. Him and the young brother from St. Martinville area, they had put it on. Mr. Peridin, they had gave Sister Janelle an award that day for her community service. We really appreciate it, and I'm a big supporter of the Southern Switchers Car Show, which is held annually every year. And they took the time, these young brothers, to give Sister Janelle that award. Okay, now I want to go into some other clips of different situations. Let's see. We're gonna go to, okay. If people don't remember this, we had the issue with young Victor White that went on in New Iberia. So many years we've been advocate for justice in the city of New Iberia, which led to the feds coming down and indict most of the new, at that time, the Iberia Parish Sheriff Department concerning some issues that was going on. Let me go back to, let me get this call on the phone, and we'll come right back to some more news and information. Again, we're in the home studio of Real Talk Media on the Open Line Radio Show on 88.3 FM.
She doesn't even support the police. But the idea to pay her thug money to try to help protect her, this and that, for what? Maybe if she wouldn't be so loud all the time, maybe she wouldn't be getting threats.
Are you saying she deserves to be threatened?
No, what I'm saying is that when you're out there talking the way she does, I'm surprised that people are probably pretty upset, because she's a pretty radical. She's pretty radical. And maybe she should tone it down a little bit.
A Republican representative calls Cori Bush's husband a thug. Now, this guy is a former sheriff, all right? He oversaw a jail that had a bunch of deaths, mysterious deaths. And he decided, well, this was a good idea. Put it up full mask. Dog whistle galore. Texas Representative Troy Nehls, a former sheriff who presided over a police department with a history of jail deaths and credible accusations of racial profiling. On Tuesday, dog whistled his apparently implicit bias against Courtney Merritt, who is married to Missouri Representative Cori Bush. So Bush would respond to the insane comment. Here's what was said.
She doesn't even support the police. But the idea to pay her thug money to try to help protect her, this and that, for what? Maybe if she wouldn't be so loud all the time, maybe she wouldn't be getting threats.
Are you saying she deserves to be threatened?
No, what I'm saying is that when you're out there talking the way she does, I'm surprised that people are probably pretty upset, because she's a pretty radical. She's pretty radical. And maybe she should tone it down a little bit.
Maybe you should tone it down, Congressman, for somebody whoops your ass for talking like that. Oh, I can't say that, but you can?
All right, we're back. We're back here at the Open Line Radio Show, which is on television just on television today. We have on the phone a good brother, a guest. Welcome, Brother Wallace.
Good morning, Brother Jay. Brother Jay, look here. When you're talking about history, you have history. I know you've been having history because you've been a big supporter of KJCB and the Black community. Love you, bro, for that. You know, you bringing back a lot of memories, a lot of history that's going on here, or have been going on here in Louisiana and abroad. You know, not just in Louisiana. You bring history that's going on all over. You know, appreciate you, man. You know, keep doing what you're doing. Don't let nobody deter you from what you're doing. You know, I'm always having your back, bro, because you're not like corporate media. You know, the media that you're having is Black history media, not corporate Caucasian or Cajun media. You understand? I mean, that's the way it is.
Yeah, my brother. I don't know if you have privy to your television screen. Can you hear me?
I could hear you on the phone, but okay. Oh,
Yeah.
look at you. You really pull up the good one.
Yeah,
you know?
remember this? This was a function in New Iberia, the Western Park, that Sister Janelle and KJCB sponsored with the young man they called Tucker and Lil Folly. And I had the privilege, again, if anybody documented things that Sister Janelle did, I did a ton of it. And I'm not bragging on that. I don't want no compensation or anything else other than I appreciated the privilege of doing that. And Brother Wallace, you was always there helping set up the backgrounds and stuff like that, and helping her with KJCB, and you and Brother Henry Davis. We can't leave Brother Davis out. And this is what I appreciate, brother.
Yeah, well, you know, Brother Davis was a major player at KJCB on the prayer line.
Right.
You know, we missed the prayer line when I do Community Matters show. I try to bring a prayer to ignite our spirit, because Brother Davis came on at 6 o'clock in the morning, igniting our spirit back in the days, you know, and he was very, very well connected to the open line, prayer line, you know.
Right.
So,
well, what history, I mean, as far as Black history, you working with Sister Janelle over the years, what you see that we could do in the future to keep the legacy up what Sister Janelle has done and you have done and others like yourself? No matter what ideology, what background we came from, you know, we had people that we didn't want to rub elbows, but Sister Janelle some kind of way got us in there. What you see can we do in the future to get our young people together?
Well, you know, Sister Janelle would have to come back, you know, to really ignite the things that she was doing. You know, she went to bed at night with a dream, woke up the next morning with a dream, came to the airwaves with that dream and made it happen. You know, she was a very big inspiration to all of us, not just you and I, you know, but to all of us, man. And I miss her. You know, I think about her a lot. You know, when I first heard her on the radio, you know, I say, now this is a sister that need uplifting and continue uplifting, you know. And I don't know what we could do to make things happen like she did, other than keep doing what we're doing. You know, keep speaking out, keep letting people know what's really going on. You know, we got Black History Month. I say it's Black Love Month. You know, we keep loving each other. Janelle, Sister Janelle loved her community. She loved the people that she dealt with. She always tried to put people in our eyesight that we needed to be a part of, you know. And when I say Black love, she was Black love. She taught us, always wanted to keep Black love going with us, you know. And Brother Jay, like I said, I appreciate you. Look where she have you at now. You know, she have you in the picture of Black love. You know, give give me my flowers now. I'm giving you your flowers now. You are a big inspiration from her to us, you know, because you are doing it the right way. I don't care what nobody else say, you know. No, they may not like you because you are so inspiration to us, but keep on doing what you're doing. Yesterday, you had a podcast on with Brother Muhammad on, you know, and everything that he was saying that is also true, you know, because maybe on my show I want to talk about this, Brother Joe Dennis,
Right,
you know,
right.
and the,
I have some pictures of him somewhere. I have zillions of pictures, man. I just got so many I hadn't had time to go through them.
yeah, but you know, we got 365 days that you could always put something off in our eyes to see, you know. And like I said, Brother Joe Dennis used to talk about this on 88.3, that they used to call his job trying to get him fired. Well, I understand what he was saying about that, because jobs that I had, they used to call and say things about me.
Right.
But they called somebody one time and they didn't know that I was a relative of theirs, you know, on me. And they tried to get me fired, you know. So, you know, I could understand all of that.
Yeah.
You know, this is why I speak up against a lot of things, because everybody that have talk shows and things like this here, they sound real, but they're so fake. You know, you are the true talk show host. You are the true producer of everything that's around here. You know, and like I say, nobody else have to appreciate you. I appreciate all that you do, you know, to show us where we at, you know. But you took a very good picture of all three of us at
She
the
had a
time.
gangster hat on at the time.
No, since Janelle had a gangster hat on.
Yeah, she was looking real gangster back then.
Yeah, she was a
When she
you
cut
know.
them eyes at you, you better move. I remember that much.
Yeah, well, she didn't have no problem in calling you out.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So, like I said, I appreciate you. You know, I hope everybody else will learn to appreciate you too, for all the history that you have, you know, that you could produce to us. You know, you see that that leather jacket I have on,
Yes, sir.
that Black Panther jacket I
Yes,
have
sir.
on. You know, Sister Janelle had a great big part of me having that jacket.
Okay.
You know, because I used to talk to her about the Black Panther a lot and things like this here. And for those that don't know it, I used to be employed by KJCB through Sister Janelle, you know, and this is why I stuck with her, because she was a true person, bro. I don't know, they say the apple don't fall far from the tree. I sure hope that the apple, stay close to the tree and keep doing what she had intended, you know. And her and I used to sit down and talk a lot. And she said, Father McKnight, AJ McKnight, was the one that gave her a big inspiration. Even brother Freeman, John Freeman, Father AJ played a big part in his life. This is why we could have 88.3 on the air, Brother Takuna. Brother Takuna was another one, and looked like we losing a lot of our big voice, our power voice, that gave us the opportunity to be all that we could be. Shoot for the dream, not at each other. That's my slogan now. We don't have to shoot at each other. They got enough people shooting at us other than we shooting at ourselves, So, Brother Jay, you're having a wonderful program on this morning. Keep on doing what you're doing. Every now and then I can say this. I fought for you to be where you are now, and I appreciate you taking on the fight, especially with AOC, LUS fiber, and stuff like this here. You worldwide, my brother.
Thank you so
Stay
much.
there.
Thank you so much, my brother. I'm gonna continue to run some different historical moments that I identified of people I met along the way, just to let people know that we covered those things and we'll be coming back and go over them. But also, brother, the fight is always eternal.
Mm-hmm.
Can't give up the fight, and we might not be able to do the show regular this month, but we definitely be back soon, where we'll be back in almost in every capacity, in every capacity to get on the air, to bring you people to different independent, take something.
Yo, yeah, definitely. And I'm not mad at you for taking care of your wife at the time of her needs and stuff like this here. Even though you're not in the places where other people want you to be, but you're still
We're
there.
not in Antarctica, because the weather down here is cold and it's hot and so forth.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, look, brother, I want to get this. Well, a caller was calling, but they call back.
Yes, sir.
I won't go over
And I don't want to suck up your wonderful program that you're having today, bro.
Yes, sir.
Like I say, I appreciate your hard work, bro. I appreciate what you do for the people. Not just black people. You do it for all people. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because everything that you're doing, other people get the opportunity to see it, and see what you're doing.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, brother.
All right. Thank you.
All right. We're back here at the Open Line Radio Show on the 88.3 FM, your superstation for South Louisiana and AOC Community Media. Please consider supporting these platforms. Again, we're still not in the physical studios of 88.3 yet. We're trying to make provisions where we could, bring all of this together, television and radio. We're the first one to be doing that, so maybe that's a historical moment. Also, I want to bring up this slide concerning Uh, this right here is I had the opportunity in 2012 to be on the ground floor, meaning inside the back rooms, as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan took the stage at Southern University, and we went to the hotel to have a conference with him. And I was with Brother Shaheed. Shout out to Brother Shaheed of Finders Keepers. We were also joined by our good brother, aka Silky Slim, a longtime community activist of Stop the Killing, hails from Baton Rouge, who now is one of the top activists in the country, aligned himself with Attorney Ben Crump. And Minister Farrakhan was giving Brother Silky Slim, Arthur Reed is his real name, giving him some pointers on some things and acknowledging the great work Brother Arthur Silky Slim has done. And so I felt privileged. And I'm going to tell you a little story. When we got into the hotel lobby, the Nation of Islam, they have security, and I don't blame them. They have security. You don't want anybody to run up on and do something crazy. And the security person for the Nation, we did the average check like everybody does, and I didn't feel no sort of way because of that. And he said, brother, the only thing I would ask you to turn off your cell phone before it won't interrupt the conference. And I said, okay, I turned it off. I thought I turned it off. And when we got up in there and we were rolling with the video, here goes my cell phone going off. And I calmly walked out of there, and the brother said, man, I told you. And he started laughing at me. So I appreciate that experience. You learn something new, and being in these press conferences with notables like the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Actually, I was allowed to record the whole event. I'm gonna bring up that slide right here. I haven't even showed it in its entirety. And again, I say I feel privileged to be a part of that. And that was at Southern University in 2012 at various media outlets covering that. It was an overflow crowd to view that. So, again, I say I was privileged to cover something like this. Another place I've covered in 2012, that was my biggest year to cover a lot of stuff. I don't travel as much to cover things around the country like I used to, but I had the privilege of being in the press room in the Louisiana Superdome in 2012, and I want to thank MC White, Mary White, who was at that time a radio personality at 88.3. She got us in through the Essence Press people, and we had the privilege and honor to videotape and do photograph. And at that time, I think he was the Secretary of State or Lieutenant Governor at the time, Jay Dawson. And he wanted most of the Louisiana media people to come up to the stage because they was about to give Aretha Franklin an award from the state of Louisiana. So I was privileged to. That's an original photo. I had a chance, and my one of my cohorts, Uptown Waters and MC White, we were backstage, and we had a chance to take some photos and shoot some video. That's my hand on that video camera, and Uptown Waters and Mary White were taking the pictures. So even though the pictures went to my camera, so we had a chance to document that interview, backstage interview. I have the interview with Aretha Franklin, and that was in 2012. Since then, Aretha Franklin has passed on. So again, like I said, I've been privileged to be a part of a whole lot of things that went on in the last 20 years. And to me, that's a Black history moment. And now we gonna go back to this documentary right here. We had a chance to document and to work with the producers of the documentary from the ID channel. Everybody know that investigation discovery. And they did an expose on my hometown of New Iberia, which a lot of people did not like. A couple of elected officials did not like. So sorry about that, but that's on you guys. You know, things to me hasn't changed much in the sense that we don't have any high profile abuse of prisoners. Maybe if they're doing it, they're keeping it a secret. Pertaining to the then administration of Sheriff Lewis Ackle. Well, Sugartown was a documentary that went national on all the national channels, and matter of fact, brother Reverend Victor White Sr., the father, went on a lot of the talk shows and talked about it, and you know, that's something that we have to live with, the killing of young brother Victor White. Again, let's see, I'm gonna bring this one up here, this slide up here. We have so many slides that we want to show of some historical situation. Okay, this slide right here, and a lot of notables in this actual clip. We had the chance to attend a conference concerning a lot of the police killings in Louisiana. You see in the background, you have Attorney Ben Crump. Everybody knows he's the face of police brutality around the country, whether for the good or for the bad. A lot of people have something to say about that, but a lot of people have something to say. We need a face and somebody who could bring light, or maybe you might want to use this word publicity, on the thing that's going on with police brutality, especially in the state of Louisiana. To his, that would be his right, and you're on screen, his left, the light-skinned guy with his hair pulled back. That's the son of well-known Major League Baseball player. I don't have his name offhand, but he was brutalized by police in Houston, Texas. His father was a well-known baseball player. They brutalized him and his mother. And at that time, he had joined forces with Attorney Ben Crump. And then you see attorney on the side of him, Attorney Carol Lexi Powell, who some say is not a reputable attorney, and some say is a good attorney. And certainly she had some issues. We met her through the Gina 6. Also, she was attorney to some of the Gina 6 plaintiffs. Remember the Gina 6? Behind her, we have great brother, well-known brother, Keith Beauchamp, film producer, producer of the Emmett Till documentary that led to the great movies Till and so forth. Great all-around brother who hails from the Baton Rouge area. And so we had the privilege to meet with him several times, had him a couple of times on the radio shows on the KJCB and the Open Line on 88.3. And behind him is our good brother, Reverend Victor White, whose son was killed or is suspected of being killed by the Iberia Parish Sheriff Department, the handcuff Houdini killing that everybody talked about. And then we have some other activists who were well-known prominent cases in the back of Attorney Ben Crump, the family. And all the way to the left in the picture on your screen would be our strong sister, Khadijah, who always been there, always been there. And we have the host of the community defender, Brother Darrell Muhammad, in the background. So we have some notables, and that was a historical moment for me to cover these things and to interview some of the people. And I have a lot of the interviews I haven't shown on local television yet. Again, we're going to make the archive available to anybody who want to get it and so forth. Again, if you want to chime in area code 337-983-6080. And I'm going to go back to the clip with Brother Rashad Ritchie and try to start it over. And we could listen to some of these horrendous issues with law enforcement.
Oh, man. Grow up. So Bush would respond to the comment via X. So Cora Bush says, Representative Troy Nehls just called my husband, a black man and Army veteran, a thug. And I'm the loud black woman who needs to be silent in order to be safe for violence. Or else, ? This is the kind of rhetoric that endangers black lives. He must apologize. So full quote She doesn't even support the police, but the idea to pay her thug money to try to help protect her, this and that, for what? Nell said, maybe if she wouldn't be so loud all the time, maybe she wouldn't be getting threats. All right, so we have our dear sister, Representative Omar, will react to the comment as well. The loud black woman trope is racist and tired. The congressman should apologize, and all members of Congress should condemn him. No wonder our government deserves to be treated regardless of how loud they advocate for their positions, and blaming the victim of harassment and threats can't be condoned. Now, I want to say this. I find it quite hypocritical that individuals like this congressman, he will say, guns, guns, guns. You have a constitutional right to guns. Have as many guns as you want to. You also have a constitutional right to your freedom of speech. Speech, speech, speech. You can talk as loud as you want to. Nope, not according to the congressman. There's a limit here. In 2021, Cori Bush posted a thread on X showing the racist threats she received, one of which mirrors what Congressman Nails said. The quote is, tone it down, B word. You're going to get yourself murdered. You keep running that big old got mouth. You ever see what you look like when you're spewing that ish? You need to be put into an effing cage at the zoo. Instead of police reform, how about N-word reform? As they say in the country. The only good N-word is a dead N-word, end quote. I want you to pay special attention to how it starts. Tone it down, B word. You're going to get yourself murdered if you keep running that big old got mouth. You know, it is eerily similar to what the congressman said. Damn near, 2 years plus later. There's more. So Nails responds, all right, so the Congressman Troy E. Nails of Texas, you should apologize to every law enforcement officer across the nation. I'm waiting. That's what he said. So Nails' commentary came after Bush confirmed that the U.S. Department of Justice was investigating her for allegedly misusing campaign funds to pay for her personal security. Bush, a progressive member of the squad first elected to Congress in 2018 as a prominent Black Lives Matter leader, said in a statement Tuesday that Merritt had been hired to work in that capacity because, quote, he has had extensive experience in this area and is able to provide the necessary services at or below fair market rate. As a rank and file member of Congress, I am not entitled to personal protection by the House, and instead have used campaign funds as permissible to retain security services. Bush said in part of her statement, quote, I have not used any federal tax dollars for personal security services. Any reporting that I have used federal funds for personal security is simply false. Now, understand what the argument is from the investigative apparatus, that somehow her using campaign funds to pay for security is not an issue until she hires a particular person who actually has a background in this, and more importantly, would literally take a bullet for her. You understand? So I get it 100%. And she is correct. She is not using any type of funding from the taxpayers. Leave that up to the Republicans taking money from taxpayers like Brett Favre. All right, Ben, thoughts here?
I mean, this Nels character could not have come off more like mob boss threatening if he tried. He's like, maybe she shouldn't talk so much. Maybe she and her thug husband shouldn't talk so much, or maybe they are gonna get more of these violent threats. And then he gets called out on it. Are you saying these threats are okay? And he immediately scrambles and tries to act like he's saying the opposite while saying the same. He literally goes, no. I'm saying she runs her mouth off so much. I'm surprised that people are upset and maybe she should tone it down. You mean clearly you're not surprised. You mean clearly to say you're not surprised. You're just saying the opposite word in the sentence because you don't even have a way to twist your way out of it. So you're just trying to make it sound not offensive while still being deeply offensive. So This dude is wild. And please also notice something very important. In response to such an egregious thing, literally justifying the threats against a member of Congress, that member of Congress only calls for him to apologize. Look at the story earlier with Council Member Salam, who literally just had a tinted window, probably legally so, and said, I'm a council member, and his opponents, his white opponents that seem to be challenged by a black man in power, asked for him to resign from that post.
Yep.
Because of saying, hello, I am a council member.
Right.
Look at the amount of grace shown on one side and the amount of implicit racism shown on the other.
Yep. And damned if you do, damned if you don't. If he did not identify himself, he would have been accused of setting up the officer, right?
You have to read the history of slavery to understand this. There were two kinds of Negroes. There was that old house Negro and the field Negro. And the house Negro always looked out for his master. When the field Negroes got too much out of line, he held them back in check. He put them back on the plantation. The house Negro could afford to do that because he lived better than the field Negro. He ate better, he dressed better, and he lived in a better house. He lived right up next to his master in the attic or the basement. He ate the same food his master ate and wore his same clothes. And he could talk just like his master, good diction. And he loved his master more than his master loved himself. That's why he didn't want his master hurt. If the master got sick, he'd say, what's the matter, boss? We sick? When the master's house caught a fire, he'd try and put the fire out. He didn't want his master's house burned. He never wanted his master's property threatened. And he was more defensive of it than the master was. That was the house Negro. But then you had some field Negroes who lived in huts, had nothing to lose. They wore the worst kind of clothes, they ate the worst food, and they caught hell. They felt the sting of the lash. They hated their master. Oh, yes, they did. If the master got sick, they prayed that the master died. If the master's house caught a fire, they prayed for a strong wind to come along. This was the difference between the two. And today you still have house Negroes and field Negroes. I'm a field Negro.
Two great senators, which is hard. I mean, did you ever think that she actually appointed you, Tim? And think of it, appointed, and you're the senator of his state, and she endorsed me. You must really hate her. No, it's a shame. It's a shame. Uh-oh.
I just love you.
No, that's why he's a great politician. That's why he's a...
Yes, I just love you. I mean, you can't make a Hollywood script better than that. To give, it was almost like, it wasn't Django because I got to wait till Master started slapping people left and right. And Tim Scott started really wanting to kill other black folks for his master. So certainly that's something to pay along lines of the political game that's coming on, especially how it stands in Louisiana. I want to bring up this clip right here. It's concerning. I started off with the article, and it's concerning the Louisiana State Police. Let's see. Yes, it's concerning charges stick on Corey York. These iPads, they have some performance issues. Okay, one of the white Louisiana state troopers accused in the 2019 fatal beating of black motorist Ronald Green still faces criminal charges after an appeals court denied his request to void them last week. The Louisiana Second Circuit Court of Appeals ruled Wednesday against former trooper Corey York, denying his request for a review of the trial court's denial of its motion to quash the indictment. York faces 1 count of negligent homicide and 10 counts of malfeasance in office related to the efforts to conceal the troopers' involvement in Green's death. Green died May 10, 2019, following a vehicle pursuit outside of Monroe. Police body camera footage of the incident shows a group of officers beating, choking, tasing, and dragging Green before leaving him shackled in a prone position until he died. State police initially told Green family that he died from injuries sustained when he crashed into a small tree until the evidence later surfaced in the lawsuit that contradicted troopers' version of events. Wow. They could not even concoct a story. They couldn't even concoct a story to cover up what they done. Now, if you're going to do something like that, you would think the Louisiana State Police, and I'm judging them on how smart they are. Even if you would have provisions in for a cover-up. You remember the throwdown gun, like in L.A. or whatever, and I'm pretty sure Brother Wallace could attest to that. When something go on bad, they always holler, "There's a gun." Well, cops in general always have a backup plan. I would think if you're going to be that brutal, if you're going to be that evil, you would have a backup plan to cover it up. Apparently, they didn't have a backup plan. So his car going to hit a small tree, and you're going to beat the hell out of him, and you're going to say his car hitting the tree did the damage. That wasn't even smart. So that tells you a lot about Louisiana. If you're going to do police brutality, they're not even smart enough to get away with it. And again, the only thing I think the only thing they know is that the court gov uphold everything they do. So that's the smartest thing. Well, at the end of the day, we know the judge and the DA and everybody else and the chief and the community going to believe us cops before we believe Ronald Green or Ronald Green family or any one of the attorneys they had. So again, so much crazy stuff is going on in this country right now. I have another clip I want to play. It's Black History Month. It's Black History Month 365. And we have a clip we want to play from Professor James Small about ancient Kemet. And I think you enjoy it.
It's a myth about the great African warrior. We didn't need a great warrior because we didn't fight wars. When we had to meet people on the battlefield, we did get ready and we did fight in self-defense, but we did not have armies of aggression sitting around waiting to kill anybody or invade anybody. So the African warrior thing is a myth. All Africans were warriors. There is no other way to see or understand Kemet. What became the Nile River was a desert valley. Centuries and centuries before, millennia before, what is called the Sahara Desert was a fertile river valley. Bodies have been found within the last 2 years in the Sahara that predates any mummified body in Kemet. So mummification didn't start in Kemet. I learned when I first started going to Ghana because of my relationship to royalty, all of Ghanaian royalty still gets mummified. That's why they don't have immediate funerals, okay? Because there's a certain period of time, 70-something days, that you have to submerge that body in salt and suck all of that fluid out of it to keep the bacteria from causing the degeneration of the body and moving the organs, of course, and making sure you do the same thing to them. This process still goes on in West Africa and East Africa and Southern Africa today. While Kemet was still a desert on the periphery, Southern Africa was the green, fertile valley. Eastern Africa, Uganda, Ethiopia, these are green, fertile valleys. But something happened and shift in the ecology. They said a shifting of the earth on the axis. Whatever happened, over thousands of years, the Sahara began to dry up. Much of the water that is now shifted to the south begins to spill over into the valleys and move downstream, which is northern Africa. The Nile is the only river that flows from the south to the north. And so water's coming out of tributaries in Mozambique, Malawi, in Congo, in Ethiopia, and Uganda is now racing down what was a dry valley, bringing all the muds and the silts from the swamps and the rainforests of the south and the east and some of the west, and creating this enormously fertile corridor all the way to the Mediterranean. The Sahara is drying up, and the lakes like Lake Chad, which is 1% of what it was 1,000 years ago. There was even rivers running from the Atlantic Ocean to Lake Chad and into that area. That's all underground now. And the satellites take picture of the underground aquifer, where there's billions of barrels of water under the desert. Gaddafi had tapped into one of those aquifers to provide water for Libya and for the Libya agricultural industry. But the population at a certain point in history began to shift westward and eastward, looking for fertile grounds. And at the same time, the population in the southern sphere began to look northwards, for fertile ground. And the Nile, as it was coming into being, provided that. And so because of the ecological balance that occurred in the Nile Valley, a most extraordinary ecological balance that allowed for the production of agriculture, it provided for people food, clothing, and shelter in an enormous way. And so people came from all over to become a part of this ecological boom, where you can plant food, where you can nourish your animals, where you have the material to build housing, et cetera, sell your surplus and make income to buy other things for your family. All of this is what the Nile is providing. This is the foundation of civilization. And people came from all over and brought their tools and their skills and their understanding of husbandry, of agriculture, of building, and it produced this society we know as the Great Kemet that lasted for thousands and thousands of years until the barbarians from the north came down. So yes, the people, when the Greeks come and the Romans came and the Hittites and the Hyksos, and there's two Hittite invasion, two Hyksos invasion, the Assyrian invasion, there's a second Assyrian invasion, the Persian invasion, there's a second Persian invasion, then you get the Roman invasion, the Greek invasion, and this happened over a couple of thousand years, 1,000 or more years within that space. And people leave, and everybody don't come back. So each time we drive these demons out of our land, some people come back, but most don't come back. You know where they go? Back to the ancestral land where the old stories told them they came from in the first place. So they go to become the Yorubas. They go to become the Ga. They go to become the Ewe. They go to Chad, and the biggest tribe in Chad and northern Cameroon is called the Sa-Ra. That means the family of the Sa-Ra, the family of the sons of God. When we study, people came from all over Africa and created Kemet. And when Kemet exploded or imploded, they left and went back to the places they came from. What they're calling Christianity, and you've heard me say this before decades ago, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam are fragments from the periphery of the African spiritual or cultural system. And that's what you have, that these people invade your land. They didn't come looking for Christianity. They didn't come looking for God. They come looking for wheat. They come looking for iron. They come looking for barley. They come looking for linen. They come looking for cotton. And they come looking for animals. That's why they invade your land. The same reason they practice colonialism and neocolonialism now, that's what the Greeks and the Romans and the Turks, that's what they were doing then. But when they got there, and they got the wealth, and they saw the harmony and balance that existed in your society, they sought to then institute that into their society. Of course, our ancestors, our scientists, who we now falsely call priests, did not give them all of it. They gave them enough of the system to help organize their barbarity So at least a civil order could exist. And out of that organizing structure and body of knowledge has evolved Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And they've added to their literature folklore, fairy tale, fantasy, and a little fragment of history, and call it their holy books. But it's simply rules to live life by in a way that you can have some harmony and some balance and some peace. Obviously, they didn't learn enough of it because they've never been in peace one day since we met them. Well, there is a church body based in Egypt that is called the Coptic Church. There is a community of people who speak a dialect of Medjugorje that's called Coptic, who live in Egypt primarily, but they live in other places too. Many of these families are members of the indigenous Africans who lived in the Nile Valley. Okay, when this discussion came under especially Roman dominance of creating a social governance that would be the socialization process for the society, which would later be called Christianity. The discussion around how people should live and behave and according to what rules meets with a lot of conflict, because the Africans saying, okay, what you're trying to say, that ain't the deal. And so a lot of African groups broke away because the Romans are the military power now. They're the political power. You Africans did not have political power in that part of North Africa, Northeast Africa. The Romans have the political and the military power. So they're dictating what the social ecology is going to be. They're dictating what the socialization process and cultural system is going to be. Today we look at it and we say religion. They weren't talking about religion the way we're talking about it now. They were talking about culture. They were talking about socialization. What is it we all gonna believe? What is it we all gonna respond to? What are the things we all gonna celebrate? What is the things we're gonna all pay homage to in order to keep on track in a common way? And so a disagreement came when the Romans and those historians and priests that they had gathered together, starting at Nicaea. To write the Bible took almost 1,000 years. People don't know that they didn't write it in one setting. This is almost a 1,000-year process, number of different conferences, changing things. And then the split came where the Romans said that God has two elements, two personalities. Man and God, and that Jesus symbolizes both. And the Africans say, no, God is one. He doesn't have this kind of division. It is just one thing and we're all a part of it. And that becomes the split. And those who say God is one are the people we are calling the Coptic Church. Out of that will arise what we call the Ethiopian Church. Okay. And all of this happens before there's a Catholic Church. And certainly before the 1500s when it becomes the Protestant Church with the Reformation of Luther and the Lutheran Church, which leads to the Baptist, the Methodist, Episcopal, Episcopalian, and all that stuff. Those are babies trying to interpret this body of information which the whites Romans got from the Africans and wanted to misinterpret. And the Africans saying, we're not gonna go with your misinterpretation. So the African church becomes what you call the Coptic Church. And that becomes the Ethiopian Church. Till today, those views are the same. The form of slavery that we're talking about, which is called chattel slavery, that really comes from the Ottomans, the Turks. We think of Islam, we think it's always been ruled by Arabs. No. It started with the Arabs in the 6th century. By the 8th century, it's already taken over by foreigners. By the 9th century, they have total control by the end of the 9th century. And they will have that total control of the Islamic world until the First World War. You know how much time that is? The Ottoman Turks out of the Caucasus Mountains, all right? the Kurds and the Turks is controlling Islam. We are calling them now Arabs. They're not Arabs. They never were Arabs. They, coming into Africa, into Kemet, began to enslave the indigenous population. And then going into Libya and the rest of North Africa, doing the same thing there. Then coming down into what is now Niger and Mali and Nigeria, and they do the same thing there. So they're selling us. They tried, but no one talks about their attempt to conquer Ethiopia and how they got their asses whipped. You hear me? No one. So Ethiopia have a small Muslim population, virtually in one little region, and virtually in one big town, because the Ethiopians didn't play that, and so they whipped them. But they had some, and they got down to Uganda. They didn't make much headway there either. But they had a little more headway in Tanzania and Kenya, you know, even though they didn't dominate it. But from Kemet, Sudan, going north, they got the power. That's why we have the fighting going on in Sudan today between those who are saying I'm Arab and those who are saying I'm Sudanese, you know. The UNESCO History on Africa, the 8 volumes, excellent, excellent work by scholars from all over Africa and from some other parts of the world. It's probably the best history ever written on Africa thus far by a group of people. And you will see a lot of this material there, where they are selling us into the Indian Ocean, selling us into the East as far as China, selling us into India, selling us into Europe, into the so-called Middle East and North Africa. And so when 1400s, when the Portuguese break away from the Moorish Empire and began to explore the African coast, they're not looking for slaves or to enslave anybody. The Ottoman Muslims have cut the European completely off from Africa and the East. So they can't control any commerce. All the commerce is in the hands of the Ottomans. See, if you want to understand why the Portuguese even left Portugal in the first place and came to the west coast of Africa, you have to understand what was happening at that time. 2 things is occurring. The bubonic plague, the Black Death, is beginning in Europe. It'll eventually kill half of the population of Europe. So Europeans are trying to get the hell out. At the same time, the Ottoman Empire had effectively cut the entire Western European world off from trade with the East, with China, with India and other Eastern countries, and with Africa. And so now Europe, which is basically a meat-eating society, have no way to preserve their meat because there's no refrigeration. They preserve their meat through spices and salt. And so the Arabs were bringing the salt from North Africa, from Mali and those areas, and that was worth more than gold. So the Europeans were trying to figure, how can we get access to this stuff? They didn't realize the African continent was as big as it was. So they had heard Portugal, which have now become a Catholic nation, which is in partnership with the Vatican in Rome, want to go and find Prester John, the mythical king of Ethiopia that they've heard about in Europe, that there is this Christian kingdom that the Muslims have not been able to conquer. And if only they can reach this Christian kingdom in Africa, they could then outflank the Muslims and open up the trade routes again. So that's how this whole thing starts out, right? Of course, then they meet the rest of us on the way to Ethiopia. Portugal will finally make it to Ethiopia by the 1500s. But in the meantime, you run into Guinea, Nigeria, to Ghana, to Congo, and you see all these black folks with all this wealth, and you go crazy and become criminally insane. And then in the midst of that, you had Christopher Columbus landing in North America, seeing all the agricultural possibilities, trying to find gold, but there isn't enough gold. But they realize there's other wealth here, but it requires labor. The Native Americans is dropping like flies from the diseased bodies of the Europeans. And the main disease they're bringing is pneumonia, influenza, and the common cold. And so they brought this with them, and it was killing people. And so the one person who was immune to them because they've been invading us for a couple of thousand years, was the African. We weren't dying from them, but we had all of the skills they were looking for. We were the agronomists. We had animal husbandry. We had agricultural skills on every plane, you know, all the things they need to make America profitable for them. And so that is the impetus. There's a skilled population that have all of the skills that we need to do what we want to do here, to make this pay for us, to take this agricultural goods back to Europe, the spices and the other things back to Europe that we can buy with us, and we will save ourselves. And that's what the slave thing started out as, and that's what it is today. Now we call it colonialism and imperialism, but it was colonialism and imperialism then. And for the same reason, we got the natural resources that you want, or we can help you produce them. In the meantime, there was already a slave system in place for 1,500 years that the Ottoman Turks had put in place, and they partnered with the Western European. And that's what really fueled the transatlantic slave trade, not Africans selling Africans. Let me say that again, it's a myth, this thing about Africans selling Africans. I'm sure that happened with a few greedy, sick people. But for the most part, Africans were fighting to save Africans. That you'll find in our oral tradition all through our history. But we were outgunned and outnumbered by military people. We were not military societies. It's a myth about the great African warrior. We didn't need a great warrior because we didn't fight wars. So stop that myth, trying to imitate the white man. When we had to meet people on the battlefield, we did get ready.
Here at the Open Line Radio Show, a special edition. We're online. I mean, we're on television, on cable TV. We're not in the physical studio of 88.3. We could not make it today, so we did it in our home studio, the Real Talk Media place. And again, we want to run this clip with Dr. James Small. If you want to know more about Dr. James Small, just Google his name and you'll come up with a lot of his works. And a great brother. I listen to him all the time on the Carl Nelson Show on WOL AM. That's out of DC. That's a Radio 1 station. Kathy uses station, the owner of TV One. And I've been listening to the Carl Nelson Show for the last 25 years or so, maybe longer than that, whatever platform he was on. But again, he always had Professor James Small, a expert in African studies and ancient Africa, Egypt, whatever you could think of. This brother is so knowledgeable. And if you want to get some true Black history, someone who actually do the research, go to the countries and research, try to listen to him if you want to have what you call Black history. Because we know Black history is being watered down. People like Jeff Landry and others like him who support white supremacy. And I'm going to say this. If you support a elected official and you take the position, let's give you this scenario. And I was talking this over with Brother Keith. How can you, even if you say, well, Brother J, I got to work with those people. Here's the thing. Those people ideology, if the ideology is against the better interests, the greater interests of Black people, the Black community, people of color, however you want to call it, and they have aligned themselves with a group, a system, or even a so-called party, let's say the Republican Party. They have aligned themselves wholly with Donald Trump. There's no room for to tell Donald Trump he is wrong. The stuff he's doing, the thoughts, the stuff that he's implanting in people's mind, or the groups that he support are evil and they're working against the greater good of your community. In other words, if they're coming against Black people in policies and procedures, and you say, well, I got to work for them, and these people haven't denounced the people that they are a part of, but then we're in trouble. And let's take it so that this new mayor president in Lafayette, who is a Republican, and she said she's a Republican, and the Republican Party hasn't denounced some of the things that Donald Trump has done, or you want to see what Tim Scott has done with Donald Trump. If you saw that clip of Stephen Django acting by Tim Scott, or Clay Higgins, who say some basically out and out racist things, and you haven't denounced those people, and you align yourself to work with those people and not calling them out and serving them. So how can we trust you as a black person? And I know this, the person hired by Mayor President Blanco Boulay, whatever they want to call it, the head Negro in charge job. And you can't call them out for aligning themselves with the greater Republican Party, who's putting out all types of stuff on their platform against people of color. You can't denounce them. Well, you're serving no purpose for the supposedly community you represent. If you're doing it for black folk, you're not doing it for black folk, because no black folk will align themselves with people who want to denounce evil and bad things. So I'm just saying that's the most plausible and logical explanation I could give. How can I align myself with the devil? You know, if you want to look at it that way. So I'm just saying, think about it. You know, I want to also play this clip right here before we go off the air. Certainly, we thank people for tuning in. Hopefully, we'll be back in the 88.3 FM station soon. But in the meantime, we're glad we got this spot on AOC Community Media. Please consider becoming a member of AOC Community Media.
No. We will not allow this nation to relegate our contributions, that is, the African American contribution to this country, to a mere 28-day period. That is the month of February. We will not allow that to happen. The shortest month of the year. We won't allow it to happen because Black history is American history in 6 stages. Stay with me and I'll explain what I'm saying. Hello, everybody. I am attorney Augustus Corbett, one half of the Defiant Lawyers, and each and every week we bring you at least one trending story having to do with politics, policies, personalities, or pop culture to empower you with the information you need to do 2 things: defy this unjust legal system and to nullify systemic racism. If that interests you, and I sure hope it does, please subscribe, like, share, comment, and click the bell so you'll get notified every time we upload one of these videos. Now, before I get into this subject, let me take a moment to express my sincere gratitude. We reached the 10,000 subscriber milestone just a couple of days ago. That is a major milestone for us. But yes, thank you, each and every one of you. Thank you so very much. It's exciting. I am fired up about it, and it deserves an applause. Yeah, there it is. It deserves a round of applause. So thank you again. Okay, so let's get into this. Black history is American history. Let's go to another screen. Black history is American history. You can't separate the two. You can't separate African American history from American history. You can't separate American history from African American history. We have made serious contributions to this nation. Now, a group of Englishmen settled Jamestown, Virginia in 1607. It was the first known English colony. The first known English colony. However, Africans had already been in what would become America approximately 40 to 50 years earlier. And of course, some people would argue that African Americans had been here long before that. I'm not getting into that debate, but history certainly shows that we were here from the absolute beginning of this nation. So how do you think you're going to relegate all that we have done for this nation to just 1 month? I mean, that is a type of segregation. It's like you're separating out the Black contribution to this nation. We're not going to let that happen. Now, we appreciate Black History Month on the calendar. We appreciate that. We absolutely appreciate that. But we want it understood that African Americans are intertwined with the founding, the development, the growth of America. And we haven't been, quite frankly, we haven't been compensated for all that we've done for this nation. We haven't really been treated right despite all that we've done. So let's talk about the 6 stages that I told you that American history, at least from the African American perspective, can be separated into. The first stage, obviously, is slavery. Now, white Americans brutally enslaved Black Americans as chattel for 246 years, which gave white Americans early advantages, huge advantages, economic advantages, political advantages, social advantages, and all other types of advantages because of that 246-year period where African Americans were considered chattel under the law. I want to bring that home to you. I have done my family background search, and you're looking at a literal copy of what's called a slave inventory. Whites who had enslaved people had to keep, or they kept, what's called an inventory. About like one would his property, his cars, his cattle, his technology, his clothing, jewelry, etc. That's what this is. And the arrow that points to the man named Tom, that man was my great-great-grandfather. His name was Thomas Williams, and he was enslaved on the plantation. If you read from the top, this says inventory of the estate of Stephen Williams, captain. He was a captain in the Confederate Army. And it goes on to say deed. Some of this is kind of difficult to read. Returned to court October term, 1849. Cash that he had on hand at that time, $30. Debts, I can't read that right off hand here. One note on Wells Sutherland in 1849, about $25. And on a second, I can't read that either, for about $75. And then we come to the word slaves. So he began to recount or list, enumerate those that he had enslaved. One male slave, Isaac, about 35 of age. One male slave, Tom, about 50 of age. That was my great-great-grandfather. He was enslaved on Stephen Williams plantation. And after slavery was abolished in 1865, my great-great-grandfather and his wife, Emily Williams, continued to work on the Williams plantation. That was often the case when slavery ended, because the enslaved Africans were without anything to really build anything or to buy anything. So they often were forced to just stay there on the plantation of the person who had enslaved them and continue to work under conditions that were really slavery all over, quite frankly. So this is how real the system of slavery was. This is just one instance. This is one artifact from that period that shows you that this was the way it was. African people, African American people were literally property, listed and enumerated as property in this country for 246 years, forced to lay the economic foundation for this country. And whites got a big head start from that 246 years of forced free labor of my ancestors. Which is why, no, I will not accept a 28-day period on the calendar to acknowledge my family's pain and toil and tears and blood to build this nation. Again, and you're going to hear it throughout this video, Black history is American history in 6 stages. Now, here is a larger pictorial of the slave inventory. And as you see, Stephen Williams had many enslaved people. Also notice that he didn't have a lot of cash, but he was wealthy in terms of the number of humans that he enslaved under the law. That's how intertwined slavery was in the economics of our country. African people, African bodies were the real wealth of this nation. This man didn't have a lot of cash, but he could sadly sell a human being and get cash for that sale. And in so doing, breaking up and destroying families. So don't talk to me about a Black History Month. Black history is American history. Now, I will take the opportunity to celebrate Black history during the month of February. I always do. But I'm wanting to make this point, and I'm wanting to make it forcefully. All right, let's keep looking. Stage 2. I'm showing you that throughout American history, there was Black history. The second stage of America was Jim Crow. Jim Crow. After the nation abolished slavery, white Americans enacted black codes that created systems and structures to maintain white power and to eviscerate Black power. So after slavery ended, after Reconstruction ended, whites, Southern whites, cut a deal with Northern whites, giving Northern whites the presidency, but allowing Southern whites to reestablish the Confederacy. And the Southern states began to enact black codes, black laws, that again created systems and structures to maintain white power and to eviscerate Black power. Because I want you to understand this, just because slavery had been abolished, African Americans still did not have full equality. You could even say that they didn't have half of the equality that white Americans have or had during that time. You could say they didn't have 1/10 of the equality that whites had immediately after slavery. You could also say that white Americans collectively, not all white Americans, because some white Americans fought to end slavery. Some died. Some were out front. There were abolitionists who literally fought to end slavery. Some believed that blacks should have had full equality. But the white community as a whole, white society, white American society, has done just what is written here, and that is created systems and structures to maintain white power and to eviscerate Black power. And by the way, to you whites who say that I didn't own any slaves, My family didn't enslave any African people, any black people. Well, that doesn't absolve you because, as I said, the system of slavery gave whites tremendous advantages. All whites in this country. Now, of course, you got very wealthy whites who have benefited more than most whites, but nearly every white in this country has gotten some benefit from the institution of slavery in Jim Crow. And if they didn't, then that's their fault because the system and structures have been in place. They've been in place to empower, to generate wealth for whites throughout. And it's the reason why the average white family today has a medium net worth that's about 10 times that of black Americans. So the second stage, Jim Crow. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on Jim Crow, but Jim Crow consisted of segregation laws, sharecropping, vagrancy laws that caused many African Americans to be sent to prison for very minor offenses so that they could become property of the state and could then be leased out by corporations and farmers, etc. There was redlining and many, many other things that went on during the Jim Crow period that essentially kept blacks in a state of perpetual enslavement. So that was stage 2. Stage 3, the civil rights movement. This is where African Americans did what we have always done, and that is resisted oppression and enslavement and second-class citizenship. We have fought, we have struggled because we were accustomed to freedom and dignity in Africa. And we were not about to come here and to willingly just submit ourselves to this system of black degradation and subjugation and oppression. No, absolutely not. So that brings me to stage 3, and there were quite a few thousands, in fact, of slave rebellions. So don't ever accept this notion that blacks submitted to and just succumb to enslavement. No, we fought back. So blacks demanded full equality and whites conceded with the passage of civil rights legislation. Lyndon Johnson signed into law the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, the EEOC, the Fair Housing Act. So that came about as a result of the civil rights movement. So that began with the Birmingham bus boycott, where Rosa Parks said, no, I'm not sitting in the back of the bus. And blacks for over a year united and stayed off the bus and provided themselves transportation to and from work, to and from the grocery store, etc., until the Birmingham business community who ran the busing system and owned the busing system and owned the supermarket said, okay, we give up.
Yes, we're back and we'll be signing off. Again, we want to thank AOC Community Media and all those who are following the Open Line Radio Show. We'll be back next week in the physical studios of 88.3 FM, but here on AOC Community Media, which we are media partners with the Open Line Radio Show, we want to make sure we didn't lose this valuable time slot to bring you some information and give you a little bit of history from a different perspective. Again, support all black media platform and also support independent media platform. They are the truth tellers in our community. Don't, I'm just saying this for myself, don't trust anything else. You know, corporate media going to give you a little bit, but they're not going to give you a lot. And we salute all those, Sister Khadijah, Brother Shaheed, Brother Wiles, Brother Keith, all those who make these shows possible. here at the Open Line Radio Show.
The Open Line Radio Show is supported in part by Finders Keepers Home Improvement Store, the place with your residential hardware needs, small engines, outdoor power equipment, bathroom accessories, electronics, lighting, plumbing, and everything in between. Located in the Southern Development Office Building at 1006 Surrey Street, Lafayette. Telephone 3377808149. That's Finders Keepers Home Improvement.